All right, good evening. I will now call to order the May 14th, 2026 Special Finance Commission meeting. Tatiana, please take the roll.
Commissioner Giulioni,
Here.
Commissioner Ho,
Here.
Commissioner Rubin,
Here.
Vice Chair Quaid,
Here.
Chair Stan Trahan.
Here.
We have quorum.
All right, we'll start with public comment. So in an effort to manage the business on the agenda, general public comment will be limited to 30 minutes at the beginning. If there are speakers remaining in the queue, they will be heard at the end of the meeting. If you would like to make a public comment for items not listed on this agenda, please submit a public comment card or raise your hand via Zoom. Tatiana, are there any public comments in person or on Zoom?
We don't have public comments in person nor on Zoom.
All right, well, let's continue on. Consent calendar items. Items listed under the consent calendar are considered by the Finance Commission to be routine in nature and will be enacted by one motion unless a public comment has been received or a commissioner requests otherwise, in which case the item will be moved for separate consideration. Do we have any members of the public wishing to speak on a consent calendar item?
No, we do not.
Do any commissioners have any comments or questions for items under the consent calendar? I do, and I hope it's a quick presentation. Just on item number 4, which is the monthly budget report. For all other items, would someone like to make a motion?
So moved.
All those in favor say, oh, I need a second, sorry.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Aye.
All those opposed say nay. Great. So let's talk about item number 4 real quick at the beginning, if that's okay. And this is just for me making sure that we're not always just looking ahead at the budget. I know today's budget day, but let's make sure we're being responsible as we go along. And so just give us kind of a high level, Nick. We have the report
Sure.
in the
Yeah, so just overall, we're sort of as expected through March. We're 3/4 of the way through the year, so we expect to end the year right around where we projected through the budget. Some of the highlights on the revenue side, you may remember as part of the mid-year, we did a pretty significant increase to charges for services, primarily related to permit fees and development related activity. So in February, we received about 327,000, and then March, an additional 630,000. So we're seeing that increase as we sort of predicted in March, in the mid-year. So that is going up. And then also on the expenditure side, that's a kind of offset again by community development, had some additional increase costs, but they're the ones doing the work, which is offset by those revenues. So other than that, everything's pretty sort of status quo as far as meeting our budget targets through March.
any risks for the remainder of the fiscal year?
Since we're mostly through May, it was only another month in the fiscal year. Most of the budget staffs had our head down on the budget, so not really anything that we see. We will go through on our next item some of the risks that we addressed, that we identified at the beginning of the year, risks to the budget, which we're addressing for next year, and then sort of some of next year's potential risks. But nothing in the next month and a half, the end of the fiscal year.
Great. Questions? Everyone feel good? All right. Thanks, Nick. Thanks, Will. All right. Can I get a motion to approve that item, please? Number 4.
I move that we approve item number 4, the March 2026 monthly budget report.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
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 All those
Aye.
opposed say nay. Great. Motion carries. All right, let's move to action items. And here I think we're going to receive a presentation not only by Nick, our Assistant City Manager and CFO, but by the other friends in the room. Welcome, everyone.
Thank you, Chair and Commissioners. We're excited to be here tonight. I'm pleased to present the fiscal year 26-27 proposed budget. The theme of this year's budget is Path to Sustainability. This is a deliberate framing that reflects our commitment to confront the city's most significant financial structural concerns head-on and build in sustainable solutions. Tonight, we'll briefly walk through a budget overview. When I say briefly, about 10 to 12 minutes, followed by short presentations from each of our department heads to highlight their individual budget accomplishments and work plans. So between the overview and each department's presentation, we'll probably have about 30 to 35 minutes of presentation for you all. So developing the budget required difficult decisions this year. The city entered into the fiscal year 26-27 budget cycle facing three significant cost pressures. One, employee compensation adjustments under recently ratified labor agreements that were necessary to stabilize the organization. Secondly, a substantial increase in internal service charges for liability, workers' comp, facility maintenance, and fleet, costs that had not previously been built into departmental operating budgets. And third, deteriorating conditions of the city's streets, sidewalks, and infrastructure. To absorb these pressures within available revenues, departments identified operating efficiencies, improved user fee cost recovery, and applied an additional 7% reduction to remaining general fund operating expenditures. The result is a balanced budget that funds ongoing obligation and preserves the unassigned reserve balance above policy minimums. So the proposed budget directs resources to four focus areas, which will be discussed in more detail in the following slides. Focus Area 1 confronts the city's largest financial exposures by addressing negative fund balances and establishing reserves for the three internal service funds. Focus Area 2 strengthens customer service through the launch of the Customer Success Center. Focus Area 3 prepares for the budget effects of development by updating impact fees and evaluating alternate financing tools. And lastly, Focus Area 4 addresses critical infrastructure, beginning with long-term financing plan for streets and sidewalks. So most importantly, the proposed general fund budget is balanced. Projected revenues of $45.7 million are up about 1.5% from the 25-26 amended budget. That did increase a pretty large, the amended budget included a pretty large increase at mid-year for those development revenues. If you adjust those out, it's about a 4.5% increase, which is from the adopted budget, which is about in line with what our projections were for the economic outlook. The operating expenditures are also $45.7 million. On top of that, there's a $180,000 one-time use of reserves to fund the November election and $2.9 million in one-time reserve transfers for total expenditures of $48.9 million. Staff is also recommending setting aside an additional $1.5 million as designated for fiscal findings to absorb additional anticipated cleanup throughout the year related to fund balance adjustments, audit findings, and disallowed grant expenditures. After the proposed transfers and reserve designation, the ending unassigned general fund reserve is approximately $14.3 million. That's 31% of operating expenditures and roughly $2.9 million above the 25% minimum required by council policy. So Focus Area 1 is the centerpiece of this year's budget. One-time funding totaling $3.7 million to establish reserves for three internal service funds the city has historically lacked or underfunded. The self-insurance fund receives $2.1 million from the general fund reserves and $360,000 from the golf course fund. It establishes an initial reserve at approximately $2.5 million, which is half of the $5 million actuarially determined estimate reserve that would be necessary to fund the self-insurance fund at a 75% confidence level. This is meant to address long-standing underfunding of the self-insurance fund, and this is meant to be a one-time transfer to establish the funding. This wouldn't be something that would need to happen every year. Again, the facility maintenance fund receives $575,000 from general fund reserves and $200,000 from the golf course fund, establishing a capital reserve for emergency repairs and deferred maintenance for the facilities division. Again, if we have air conditioning go out, if we have some emergency roof repairs, we just don't have any funding set aside. This is to at least create a fund so that when those do happen, there's a place to draw those fundings from. And I keep mentioning part of this is from the golf course fund because we are entering into a public-private partnership or moving forward with a public-private partnership with an operator to redevelop the golf course. So those funds are not anticipated to be needed. There's about $2 million in the golf course fund that we were setting aside for capital improvements. We won't need that funding now. So the idea is to transfer some of that over one time to help establish some of these reserves. Lastly, the vehicle replacement fund receives $250,000 from general fund and $200 from the golf course fund. That's equal to about 1 year of amortized replacement charges for city vehicles. Again, we had nothing set aside in prior years to replace vehicles. Importantly, beginning this fiscal year, ongoing internal service charges are built into departmental operating budgets, which will sustain these funds going forward. So the reserve transfers, again, are a one-time transfer to establish the floor. The recurring charges will keep them funded going forward. Focus Area 2 strengthens customer service through the launch of the Customer Success Center. The center is led by a Customer Solutions Manager and will be staffed by 3 Customer Solutions representatives transferred from existing departments. So there will be no net increase in citywide headcount. The center is supported by a Salesforce-based case management platform that Council authorized on May 6th. The platform routes resident requests to the right department, tracks them end to end, and reports performance. This will give Council and the community transparent, accountable service delivery. That's one of the things that we heard when we first got here is that, it's hard that service requests are not being addressed in a timely manner. So the third focus area prepares for the budgetary effects of development. Development activity in South Pasadena is expected to grow over the next several years, both because of private investment and because of state mandated changes to housing and mixed use rules. If our revenue tools don't keep pace, growth-related costs end up being subsidized by existing residents. The primary efforts in the upcoming year include a comprehensive update to the city's development impact fees, as well as exploring alternate financing mechanisms, such as enhanced infrastructure financing districts, community facilities districts, and other tools available under California law to equitably recover growth-related costs. The last focus area addressed is the city's most pressing infrastructure needs, streets and sidewalks. The city's current pavement condition index is 54 out of 100, which is rated poor. Without additional investment, that score is projected to continue declining toward 51. On the right side of the slide are the CIP highlights for the year. 24 projects across 9 categories, totaling about $51 million in combined carryover and new funding. The 2 largest categories are transportation and traffic at $28.1 million and streets and sidewalks at $11.4 million. I will say most of those are made up of 2 projects. One is the Huntington Fremont project, which is about a $40 million project, and the Fair Oaks ITS project, which is about a $10 million project. And those are both funded primarily through former 710 freeway funds. So a lot of this funding isn't even sort of local return funds. Staff is finalizing the capital budget book now. So all of the sort of allocations from the special funds are in your budget, but we're putting together an actual CIP book that will have, a page for each capital project. So hopefully it'll be a little bit easier for the community to read. We do plan on finalizing that next week and getting that out posted on the website. And we will be reviewing the CIP with council on June 3rd. And, there'll be another opportunity on June 10th during the joint finance and city council meeting. So the proposed budget provides funding for the first 2 focus areas. The department work plans include efforts to begin preparing for the budgetary effects of development. And although there are resources to address basic maintenance in a few grant-funded projects, the CIP is underfunded compared to the city's streets, sidewalks, and infrastructure needs. So beyond the 4 focus areas, which are primarily related to the general fund and the operating budget, The proposed budget continues active financial management work throughout the rest of the city's funds, and it supports council priorities through department work plans and budget enhancements. On the enterprise fund side, the water and sewer utility rate study will return for council consideration in late spring or early summer. Staff is monitoring the debt market conditions for a possible water bond refunding, which the Finance Commission recommended, City Council adopted. So we're going to start that process of looking into the water bond refunding if it makes financial sense. Water service shutoffs were reinstated in March to restore delinquent account collections. And the Arroyo Seco Golf Course, as I mentioned, the public-private partnership continues to move forward. On the special revenue and internal service fund side, we've completed 5-year income statements for each fund to identify and resolve some negative fund balances. The $1.5 million designated for fiscal findings set aside provides a cushion for anticipated cleanup adjustments. Restricted fund CIPs are now budgeted directly in their applicable fund rather than Fund 400, and the new internal service funds are sustained going forward by charges built into the operating budget. Lastly, the Urban Forest Management Plan and Community Services Program evaluation priorities set by Council will both be advanced in FY 26-27 through department work plans and pursuing grant funding, with quarterly scorecard reporting back to Council. If those grants are unsuccessful, staff will return at mid-year to discuss other funding options. So this is my last slide, but probably the most boring. I did want to make sure that the commission and readers understood how to read the budget book and how it's organized. So I think it's important to take a few minutes to just go over sort of the organization of the budget. So a few minutes, I already said all that. Okay, so the budget is organized to include more detail as you delve deeper into the book. So the introduction section at the front of the book includes the city manager's budget message, economic outlook, 5-year forecast, and a description of the budget process. So that provides the reader with all the context needed for understanding the budget as a policy document and the other underlying reasons for the recommendations being put forward through the proposed budget. This section is critical for anyone interested in understanding the general direction for the city over the next year. So following that introduction, the next section are a number of schedules that provide a high-level summary of the financials for each fund, including beginning fund balances, revenues, expenditures, and then ending fund balances, and then total city staffing. This section provides foundational information for the financial health of each fund. After the summary schedules is the general fund budget, which we'll primarily be focusing on tonight. That includes tables followed by individual department budgets. Each department has its own section. So in each department section, you'll see a mission statement, overview of responsibilities, summary of revenues and expenditures by division that are generated from that department, an org chart, and a position summary. Following that, there'll be highlights of that department's accomplishments and work plan for the upcoming year. Then after that sort of department section, the divisions underneath that department will each have their own description for what that particular division does, what their specific function is within the department, followed by their line item budget. So that's the specific budget for each division. And that same information is provided for each department. So after the general fund, each fund then has its own section that is provided similar to a division, which means that each fund will have a fund description or purpose, the summary of revenue expenditures in a table, and then underneath that, there'll be the line item budget. Lastly, the appendix includes supplemental policy documentation and a glossary for those interested in getting a better understanding. As I mentioned, we're currently finalizing the CIP document, and we anticipate that to be posted next week. With that, I'd like to turn it over.
Nick, should we ask questions now?
You
Raise your
certainly can.
hand?
If you have anything on the overall, I
Yeah.
will say Matthew is sweating because he has a library commission. He's up first, so I made him go. He's going to be up first, but if he's late, you don't want to get on the wrong side of a librarian.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Matthew, what time do you need to get out of here?
He's got coverage for the first 5 minutes.
Okay. Okay, I'll be quick. So we talk about a couple different things. One is these one-time transfers from the general fund. Are there, and I understand why, it's a great idea. Are there policies or practices to make sure that those balances stay outside of the general fund or
Yeah.
kind of earmarked, I guess?
So ultimately, any council has the authority to remove those back in the future, use those. We can't necessarily tie the future council's hands in that, right? They ultimately are flexible funds. That being said, is reflecting them within the internal service fund shows that they have a purpose and clearly shows what their purpose is for. So if a future council, feels that, there's plenty of reserve in the self-insurance fund, as an example, they could make a decision to move it out and fund other things, similar to what we're kind of doing with the golf course fund, right? So there's no hard and fast policy other than sort of what the use for each one of those internal service funds are, and it makes it clear that what those reserves are meant to be used
The
for.
intention. And then the 1.5 is really what I'm a little worried about. Can you maybe elaborate on
Yeah.
what the concerns are with why we're
Sure.
pulling out 1.5?
And I think that's probably the threats piece that you asked about earlier. So, as we typically, when you go through a grant program, the granting agency will audit, but it'll usually be 3 or 4 years down the road. And sometimes when they do that audit, it's sort of like FEMA. Everyone hears the nightmare stories about FEMA. Is they'll give you tons of money up front. 4 years later, they'll come and they'll claw every penny back that they can. So similar to that, we're going through some audits, and there'll be some, it's not large numbers right now, but there'll be some, some funds that are costs that were misclassified, or sometimes the grant will say you can only use up to 10% for personnel costs, and we used 14. So we'll have to transfer that sort of difference back to the general fund. And just sometimes, staff was unaware that the grant guidelines didn't allow for that. So we really just want to make sure that we're being fiscally prudent by reflecting that that's a possibility. We're still cleaning things up over the next, say, year or two. If we don't need that, and a lot of our audits come back that they were, there's no adjustments needed, perfect. Then we undesignate that, and then it just becomes unassigned reserve again. So we've been seeing little amounts here and there, and we just want to make sure we're setting aside in case there's something bigger. And I see the boss behind me.
Yeah, I think what our main goal was to try to just acknowledge Nick and his team are continuing to find accounting discrepancies over the last few years. We know that there's going to be more surprises. I mean, you just had an agenda item within the last month or two where we had to take about $1 million out of reserves in order to fix one of the fund problems. We know there's more out there.
Mhm.
The team is negotiating right now with some of our state shared revenue, local revenues, trying to come up with some reconciliation of how we used funds. So it's a real interesting process. Our team's doing a good job trying to recreate the history, but I would rather just be upfront with you about it rather than come back at mid-year and say, look, we found something else, because we know that it's not going to be perfectly clean yet. The other thing with regard to the establishment of those three funds, the reason we chose the path to sustainability theme is the budget is not in a sustainable position until you have the ability to fully fund your insurance obligations, your vehicle obligations, facilities, and roads. And when I look back at our conversation a year ago, when everybody was in such a pleasant mood, one of the things is not having light on these issues caused a lot of internal politics, fighting, decisions to be made that weren't necessarily long-term. They were real immediate decisions, not understanding the trade-offs to other things. So it's just kind of a best practice to make sure that those are out there. This isn't the private sector where we get to depreciate all of our assets and then use those dollars to replace things. We actually have to budget for these. So that was the point, is just being as transparent with everything as possible and making sure that when we make a decision, it's kept within a fund and we're not necessarily impacting another part of the budget unknowingly, because that puts all of us in scramble mode constantly.
Todd, that I saw that 1.5 million as being a legacy of your predecessors and what Janet and I actually and Cynthia we talked about that years ago. We asked that we put that almost like a stopgap measure or an emergency fund,
Yeah.
and I had no problem at all with it. So
Yeah.
thank you.
And I mean, the fact of the matter is, a lot of this is coming out of the CIP right now, where we were asking our public works director to be an accountant the last few years. And so I think the team has done an absolutely terrific job as far as cleaning these issues up fund by fund. But we are still in negotiations over some of the way those local shared revenues were spent. So I just feel like we need to be open about it.
Yeah.
Okay.
You have a question?
Well,
I do.
the only
you-
follow-up question I had, sorry
No,
about
you're
that is, the 1.5, is that like itemized in terms of your estimates, or is that just a?
About half of it is an estimate. We're dealing with an SB1 issue right now that I think Nick and his team have made a ton of progress on. That's our maintenance of effort for our local roads. Again, confusion about did we adequately charge or spend the money that we needed to spend in order to obtain those funds. So it's about half of it at this point. I think they're going to get it worked through, but I just told him, let's go ahead and build a safety net here. If we don't use it this year and we continue to make the progress that we are, we'll drop it back down into reserves.
Right.
But much rather be upfront with you about it than come back at mid-year because we know about it right now.
A mid-year positive report would be very welcome. Yeah.
I think it's I mean, to me, taking money out of our reserves is fine to sort of the starter fee, right? The one-time fee. But I guess back to your point, every year we're gonna have to start thinking about how this affects all of everyone's budgets and how we can eat what we, put on our plate kind of thing. And so I just want to just be mindful, and the city council should be mindful. We're taking a lot of money out of reserves while we're above the limits. I understand. It's just, I would love some discipline on not having to do this again, or some policy or some restriction on the money, or, just something that says like, we're not going to touch this. It's for this specific purpose. And
Yeah.
I know that's, according
I-
to Nick, not possible, but I just think that there's got to be some discipline around it.
No, I agree with you. I think it is possible. I've certainly worked in other communities where we've had fund balance policies for fleet replacement, vehicle facilities investment, insurance fund. I think Nick, as he described to you tonight, where the money, for instance, into the insurance fund, which is our biggest threat right now, still, is representing about half of what the actuaries tell us we need to have in there. So it's a huge step forward. But again, it's getting us out of panic mode. We're not digging out of everything in one year, and there's an acknowledgement of that. My main priority last year was to get this staff stabilized. We had 20% vacancy rates. It was crazy, and things weren't getting done. So, once we got the staff compensation kind of worked through, we're able to start attacking these other parts of the budget. I think the other thing with the insurance fund is, since Nick's arrived, we've been a lot more aggressive in terms of managing our claims and managing that liability. I don't think we have any major, I shouldn't even say this, but I don't think we've had any other major claims hanging out there that we haven't settled, and I probably just ruined it. But that gives us a little bit more peace of mind that this phasing in of that 2.5 million towards the 5 is a good thing. But it just means that we have to be super aggressive every month or so, which we are, in trying to settle the things before they get out of hand.
Chair, I think also I want to just add that I think it's really very hard to fully appreciate how the state of this over the last 4 years. There was a couple of really bad meetings where there were a lot of special funds and negative balances that this commission had to kind of take on the staff and like, what are all these negative balances? I've had this for about 35 minutes, and I quickly looked at the special fund reserve page. I'm like, oh, isn't that nice? None of them are negative now. So I think it was the special. So I would look at this, in my perspective, as more just, this isn't us not, like being careful about spending. It's about cleaning up years of slop and not knowing where we were. I think that, and the insurance, I think all the settlements are from claims from 7 years ago. So this is the year we're having to pay the piper, quite honest, from my perspective.
Well, and Janet, I'll support you on that in terms of this is the year where, and I like the way Todd put it, this is the year where we're beginning the process, we're laying the groundwork for the next couple of years of taking care, cleaning up some of the residual from past administrations. Yeah.
And maybe that's the question. This 1.5, is this a 1 year issue, 2, 3 years? I mean,
I think-
audits come and
I think it's, we've really had a good idea where our financial position is for a solid 3 or 4 months now. And so I think as we continue to work our way through all these special local revenues, those grant funds, that sort of thing, we every now and then we'll get a surprise. We've got grants, for instance, where we may have misappropriated or improperly coded personnel costs to it. And so Nick's got his hand on it, but I just wanted to, and he's negotiating, trying to find solutions for this, but I wanted to acknowledge that we're not out of the woods yet. If we know about it, you need to know about it. And I just would prefer to have it kind of budgeted, ready to go, rather than come back at mid-year and keep cleaning things up. I just think it's more transparent for everybody if we do it this way.
I think it's much more conservative.
Yeah.
appreciate
And
that.
as I understand it, as I recall, even last year, we were talking about a lot of the grants, there just aren't any records. And some of those go back like 7 years. And so I think you're just having to sort of say, we may have to forfeit. Yeah.
I love the transparency. Thank
Okay.
you.
Nick, I had a question for you, if you don't mind. This is on slide 5, the facility maintenance fund you set it up for 775,000. Last year we had a great conversation, although it was great and sad simultaneously, where we did not have clarity on the life expectancy and the utility for all of our facilities. Do you feel like you have your arms wrapped around that? And do you feel like 775? That number seemed low to me. That's why
Yeah.
I'm asking them.
So with regards to clarity, I would say no. I think Julian's team is still working on a facility assessment. So we do know that there's certain things we need. Library needs a new roof. We
Right,
have
right.
HVAC. We have some things, but we don't have a schedule of like an inventory of every single sort of facility need. And so we needed to start somewhere, and this was where we could afford, I guess,
Okay,
to
so
start.
and I don't mean to be flippant. The 775,000 is almost a plug number there.
Yes,
Okay.
it's a best guess.
Best guesstimate.
Yeah,
Okay, got it.
yeah.
Fair enough.
That's the best
And
guess.
that is the one where I believe we're going to have some adjustments in mid-year, to be honest. with
Yeah,
you.
potentially.
I predict it. Yeah.
Potentially, and there's also capacity issues, right? We can't budget the money if we don't have the staff to get it done.
Fair.
So this is the
Fair.
same. And then I did want to mention, since Councilmember Braun brought up the fund balance, there are a few that do actually have negative fund balances, but we always footnote anywhere there is a negative fund balance, we have footnoted why. So just FYI, it's kind of small, so get your microscope out. But there are reasons for all of. There's only about 4 or 5 of the 36, but
And Nick, I think you may have mentioned this. We are doing a study on our facilities, right? Like we're going to get a report or something.
Is that correct? That's Julian. I know we had in the facilities budget this year was a facility assessment, and I
Great.
believe that's going to provide
Great place to start.
So if I may, I'd like to pass it over to Matthew.
Thank you.
Hello. Matthew Patzel, Library Director, for those of you I haven't met yet. So the library budget this year is 2.8 million. That's a 0.8% change, primarily due to reallocation of internal service charges for facilities and maintenance. And we're having a net FTE change of negative 1.55, which I'll get to later, but basically it's because we previously relied on a substitute pool of librarians who would work sporadic hours, and we're reducing that to hire 1 full-time librarian. And the 2025-6 accomplishments for the fiscal year were tied to the strategic plan and staff focused on expanding and improving operational efficiencies. Staffing changes were implemented, focusing on adding new positions and promoting librarians into senior librarian roles so they can take more supervisory duties. We implemented RFID, which is radio identification tagging, which basically means you can check out 10 library books at once instead of one. It also helps with the inventory. We can scan it around the library to see which ones are missing. And we updated document management systems, which allow patrons to print physical documents wirelessly from their personal devices, print a PDF from the library's computers, and more. And the 26-27 work plan is focused on expanding community services. So we're going to add a library of things collection this year, which we're very excited about. That promotes sustainability. A family, if their kid wants a guitar, they can check it out and try it for a bit instead of just buying it for them. For certain items, like if you're doing work on your house, power tools, carpet cleaners, you can just check it out and take it back instead of having to buy it yourself. We're also focusing on expanding teen services, so that new position we're hiring is going to be youth services. They're going to focus on the teen population and support children. And we got a grant to develop a library awareness campaign. So we'll be doing special programming and promotions in fall to boost awareness of the services we offer. There's no budget enhancements this year. The efficiency and revenues are through this RFID. It's expected we'll save 350 hours per year of staff having to check out items. And we have a new security guard vendor that's going to save about $45,000 this year. And finally, the operational change is that staffing efficiency. We're going to have full-time staff, which in my opinion is just more productive than having a constant stream of substitutes coming in who may not be aware of everything going on. The full-time staff can take ownership if situations arise, and we can increase programming for children and teens with that. And with that, do you have any questions?
I'm going to ask this question of every department. When Nick came to you and said you had to cut 7% from your budget, what did you do?
We we looked around for just areas where we could trim it a little bit, and without affecting services. Some of that is through the book budget, but we also have other sources of revenue. We have some local organizations that provide funding yearly. We have a Friends of the Library group that can also provide funding. So I don't anticipate any reduction in services or collection based on that 7% reduction that Nick so generously asked.
Congrats.
Backing on that, were there any services that you determined that were no longer needed and it could be eliminated?
No, there was nothing to be eliminated, just more efficiently done. Like I said, with hiring a full-time person, we can expand a lot of things. Just tweaking the hours people are working to cover the desk. And again, just eliminating this pool of substitutes, some working as few as 2 hours a month, some working 16 hours a month. So we could really prioritize where the time was needed for staff. But no, there was nothing service-wise that we want to eliminate.
Thank you for doing that analysis. We appreciate it.
Yeah.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, thank you, Matthew. So I have the great fortune of covering for a few folks that are out tonight. So I'm going to be doing finance, the city manager's office, and human resources. So maybe I'll do everyone. You'll see everyone's got the same 3 slides. The idea is to give you an overview of our budget and then accomplishments, work plan. I think it is important to note that everyone. The reason that we are having the efficiency slide is it is important to note that, we want to make sure we were tightening our belt. We need to, particularly because we knew we were going to have to add these internal service costs. So we needed to look at making sure that we're running as efficiently as possible before, trying to say we need to dip into reserves or we need additional revenue. So that's why every department has that sort of efficiency slide. So my question is, do you mind, Chair, if I just go through finance, city managers, human resources, then can take questions on all 3 perfect.
Yep, go ahead.
Thank you. I'll try to be quick. So the finance department, which includes finance, city treasurer, information services, and non-departmental divisions, has a proposed 26-27 budget of $5.2 million. This represents actually a 9% decrease from prior years, with the 11 authorized positions and no net changes in staffing. So increases in the finance and IT divisions primarily reflect labor cost adjustments and a one-time enhancement for contract supplement staff services in the finance division. We do need supplemental staff for just 6 more months as we transition all of our duties to full-time staff. City treasurer line is essentially flat. And then the 30% reduction in non-departmental, which is about $800,000, is the principal driver of the overall increase in the department. And that reflects the reallocation of certain charges into the new internal service funds, namely the transfers of self-insurance fund overages. So a lot of the self-insurance fund overages on a year were paid out of non-departmental. So now that those are being paid out of the internal service costs, they came out of this budget. So that's what that large decrease is. So the department's 25-26 accomplishments include completing the Springbrook ERP upgrade and launching training for non-finance staff. We caught up on the ACFR, which we completed 2 in 6 months, and restored normal reporting cadence going forward, including monthly budget and monthly treasurer's reports. We retired the CIP fund. You'll notice I'm saying that a lot. I really hated that fund, so I appreciate the support to retire it. Julian loved it. I didn't like it so much. And we moved our capital activity to direct fund allocations. And that improved our audit chain of custody. We also built 5-year forecasts for the general fund and every special fund. For the 26-27 work plan, first and foremost is timely financial reporting across all annual and monthly reporting cycles. Second, we'll provide project management for the development impact fee update and exploration of the EIFDs, which are Enhanced Infrastructure Financing District, and Community Facilities Districts, and other financing mechanisms provided through California law. Third, working through the Information Technology Division, we'll be supporting the implementation of the Customer Success Center, facilitating the SharePoint transition, and a full review of tech and communication services to identify additional overlap and cost efficiencies. Lastly, staff development and increased reporting standards are a priority, including pursuit of the GFOA Excellence in Financial Reporting Award and the CSMFO Budget Award. So some highlights for the Finance Department budget in 26-27 include a single one-time enhancement of $31,000 for 6 months. I had mentioned that for the one-time staffing supplement. We were able to identify and implement a number of cost-saving efficiencies. Most of these were taking advantage of our IT manager, Tim's great work. So in addition to when we upgraded Springbrook, that actually allowed us to save about $30,000 per year because we were able to eliminate Questica. Additionally, we were able to identify probably more than $250,000 a year actually in savings by eliminating unused phone lines, consolidating software services under a master contract, and engaging a new managed service provider at a more competitive rate. And really the notable operations changes were mostly discussed as a part of our work plan. So that is finance. If you don't mind, I'm going to skip over to city manager's office. Very quickly, city manager's office, only about a 1% overall budget change on $2.3 million, but you'll see there's a lot of changes in the divisions, particularly the city manager's office has a 12% decrease from last year to this year. That reflects the city clerk's office, which used to be in the city manager's office, is now its own standalone department, and risk management, which was under city manager's office, is being moved to the HR. We do have a new public affairs division that was established in 25-26, but in 26-27, we actually added the film liaison to that. It was a part-time position. We were able to, through the additional revenues that position generates, actually upgrade that to a full-time position, and that's going to be under the public affairs office. We've talked a little bit about the customer success center that's under the city manager's office, and then legal services, that's just a regular contract increase. Again, the net 2 increases in FTEs are that film liaison, which was upgraded from part-time, and the customer success manager that was actually transferred from, we stole that position from Melissa's department, or we borrowed it permanently. So, so in the city manager's office for the work plan, in 25-26, some of the accomplishments is we initiated the Arroyo Seco Golf Course public-private partnership. We created the council priorities scorecard reporting. We worked with HR to execute 3 or 5 MOUs that were all 3 years in length, and then again launched the Customer Success Center and the new public affairs office. 26-27, the work plan is really finalize the golf course plan and start getting shovels and grounds. Customer Success Center, again, completing that and hopefully launching that either late this calendar year, early next calendar year. Developing a community engagement framework through the Public Affairs Office, and then continuing to standardize a lot of our processes and developing key performance indicators for next year's budget process. No new enhancements on the city manager side. The efficiencies really are going to be through the Customer Success Center, and a lot of that we're really just banking on having one point of contact for the city when you call, as opposed to 32 different contacts. And then operational changes, again, city clerk transitioned to its own department, risk management transition from CMO to HR, and then the public affairs and the customer service success center are both kind of new divisions under the city manager's office. So finally, I'll just go through HR. They're all obviously very interrelated, so I'll just continue through HR. HR was able to reduce its budget by 26% in this year. The reductions were mainly related to contract services and part-time hours that had previously served as staff augmentation. We had a lot of vacant positions and people out on IOD last year, so that we had to hire staff augmentation. So that really increased last year's budget. So now this is back to a more normalized budget. There are four full-time positions: the HR director, risk manager, HR analyst, and management aide. And currently the risk manager is being underfilled by a senior HR analyst who is really growing into that position well. So from an accomplishment standpoint, HR successfully negotiated and finalized the 5 MOUs with its labor partners. Obviously, that was just a really critical effort to introducing stability to the organization. Also, as kind of part of that was the class and comp study that was completed and evaluated about 120 positions to assess market competitiveness. And then they also significantly reduced the vacancy rate through focused and strategic recruitment efforts. So the city started the fiscal year about 18% vacancy rate. We're down to about 8.5% vacancy rate. So made some really good gains there. Oops, sorry. The 26-27 work plan, they're really focused on redesigning and implementing a citywide employee evaluation program that incorporates new forms and data cleanup. So that'll be a more usable, consistent evaluation process. Modernizing workflow standards. So we're really, Springbrook actually really helps our HR division too, because we're our department. They're going to use that for workflow, for processing employee changes. So it'll be something that they use between Springbrook and NeoGov to really leverage technology. The quarterly, they're going to continue to improve visibility into claims and strengthen coordination with third-party administrators to enhance consistency in the reporting process. They're actually currently looking to onboard a new third-party administrator in general liability to really revamp our risk program to make sure that we're staying aggressive and on top of those claims. And then lastly, develop and implement the curriculum for South Pasadena University. This would be a citywide employee development program designed to strengthen organizational culture, promote supervisory best practices, and support mission alignment and service excellence. So there's no from a budget. There were no budget enhancements in HR this year. From an efficiency standpoint, there were 2 part-timers that were also assisting last year for staff supplement. Those will not be carried over to this upcoming fiscal year. That saves about $32,000. Again, workflow processes and efficiency gains, really modernizing and standardizing those workflows using Springbrook and NeoGov more, as opposed to sort of the paper process that we had been using before. Just the overall improving the evaluation process will just help with management, supervisory management. And then really, again, the only operational change is that risk management First of all, HR was in finance last year, so it's kind of a standalone department this year, and the HR function will be managing the risk management function in the upcoming year. So that is those three sort of, we'll call ourselves overhead departments.
Question?
Nick, I'm going to ask a question about the IT group. It felt like when you arrived, there was a conglomeration of various programs, various systems, and so on. Have you managed to, I guess, cull your way through all of that and settle now? Sounds like you settled in Springbrook.
Yeah.
Okay. And do you feel good about that? And I noticed there was something in here about training everyone on Springbrook.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I think we're in a much better place from a technology standpoint. I will say, and Tim Schofield, who's our IT systems manager, has been very helpful too in identifying, again, having a person that works for the city that has visibility into all of the different software packages all of the different departments are using, and saying, well, wait, Public Works is using GIS, and Community Development is using GIS, and Police are using GIS, and they have 3 separate contracts with 3 separate vendors. Why don't we have one master vendor and have some economies of scale? So we've done that. Like that's how so there's just been a lot of consolidation over the last couple months. And, when we bring that up to Todd and say like, well, we need to do this, Todd's like, why haven't you done it already? What are you telling me about this for? Just get it done. So we've been able to make a lot of progress on some of those issues. I think that from a tech standpoint, we're in a much, much better place than we've been before, only because we have someone that's steering that ship, as opposed to just kind of letting the waves take us where they may. So I think we're in a really good spot from a tech standpoint.
Really, really pleased to hear that. And I guess my second question focuses on HR folded into finance, and now you're separating it again. What was the strategy behind that?
So I think at the end of the day, it's about having a higher level leader for that function. So when you have HR as sort of a manager position that's functioning under a director, you're sort of going to have a management level leader. I think Todd had realized that in the human resources function, in the risk management, it's such an important and critical function in building culture. You need someone that's a top-notch leader. You need to pay them as a top-notch leader. So you need someone that's really a department head and has that authority. So I think that's why the organizational change was made, to really have it be a standalone department, so we could have a department head that's really leading that function, because it's so critical, as opposed to someone that's more of a mid-level manager.
Nick, I'm sorry, I missed it. Who is that person?
Roger Sung, who's got amazing hair. He's at a risk management.
I don't like him already.
Yeah.
Okay.
Neither do I. So I get it. Yeah.
Okay.
Then
Oh, I have just some small questions. So on these slides, the FTE stands for full-time employee or equivalent?
Equivalent.
So when we moved for city manager, right, you said we had Joan, who was, I guess, part-time then, who
Yeah.
was moving to full-time.
Yeah.
How do we end up with a whole number?
So I will admit that our full-time equivalents are not. We're getting our hands totally around the part-time piece of it, because the way that we had budgeted in the past was not necessarily the way that I like to budget part-timers. Is that a department has a pool of hours, say 2,000 hours, that you can easily convert the pool of hours to an equivalent of 2,080 hours is one person, right? How we had done it prior to this year was they would just have 10 employees that could work up to 960 hours. So you had 10 employees that were 0.48, but none of them actually worked that much. So if you add all those together, and you're going to get, you're going to get, 4.8 employees, right? But like realistically, you only have they're only working enough hours for 2 employees. So it was just like the way it had been tracked in the past was not the way I wanted to reflect it here, because it would have overinflated what our FTEs were. So what we are doing this year is converting that to hours, and we're putting the hours into sort of the part-time budget is converted to hours. That being said, it's not completely reflected from last year to this year because it wasn't going to be an apples to apples comparison. I just asked people to leave it out, the part-timers out for now. The budget is there for the part-timers, but because last year, we're doing it differently. So if we put the FTEs the way that it was measured last year, it would look like there were 5 FTEs, but this year we would only have 2, and it's only because we're measuring them differently.
So
That
last year,
makes sense.
last year you were counting people, this year you're counting hours.
Exactly.
Got it.
Correct.
Okay.
Right.
And a full-time equivalent is 2,080 hours.
Yeah. So for
Right.
example, if Melissa, wanted, you could have 10 different people work 200 hours, or she could have 5 people work 400 hours, right? So that's up to her as far as like, I don't know if that math is right. I tried to do it. So I was like,
Melissa looked way too happy, so I don't think it's correct, okay?
but so it's up to the department head to manage the number of hours that they have in their budget, not necessarily the number of people. So last year it was, like you said, it was number of people. This year it's hours.
Yeah, no, it's just because I noticed the library actually had decimal points and everything else was just whole numbers.
Yeah. And so sometimes we'll do a decimal point if we do have a fixed person that's like at one person that's working part-time. Actually, community development has that same arrangement because it's the same person consistently. So it's not necessarily a pool of hours. So again, it's not perfect, but we tried to do the best we could to reflect that.
And then also kind of on minor number issue. So on this thing now, where the details are.
Is there a page?
Oh, 90 on the budget. So then, for example, I'm looking, so this is the HR department, right? And it seems like by and large, their full-time employees are the same from 25, 26. So if I look at page 87, I have, 4-person, and then 26, we have 1 person that's even higher ranked. But then the permanent salaries went down significantly.
Yeah, so the permanent salaries went down so significantly because last year we were actually paying a contractor out of those permanent salaries. I don't know if you remember Josette, but Josette was being paid out of here, and she was on top of the regular staff that was in there. So she was being paid out of regular salaries, even though she was a contractor. So this just reflects kind of normalizing.
Got it.
Nick, 12 months ago, we had what I believe way too many consultants in the city. I can't find a lot of consultancy in your budget. Does that mean you've made a commitment to replace them with full-time folks?
So
Not going to be using consultants?
yeah, so I think consultants we use now more on a project-based specific basis. So instead of acting in the place of staff, they're there for a specific purpose that's time limited.
So they truly are consultants as
Right.
opposed to staff aug.
Yes, correct.
Got it.
Yeah. If there are no other questions.
Nick, just in terms of just the presentation. No, it's not a question. It's just the presentation. So I don't know how maybe this is the best way, but like in each of the efficiency and revenue slides in all the departments, it's like plus 30 grand or estimated 30 grand. And I understand there's a difference, or negative, like it's a savings. That estimated is savings of 30, but it's the same color. It's
But
kind
it
of the
looks
same.
green. Yeah, it's green.
Yeah, I wonder if you just change a color. And
I think
one's for savings, one's for adding in costs.
I think we'll use. That's an excellent comment.
Yeah.
We'll make red reduce, green go. Perfect. Thank you. So we'll go back to the city clerk department, and Nikema will hopefully make her laugh, because then you're in for a surprise.
Uh-oh.
Good evening, Chair and Commission. Nikema Newsom, Chief City Clerk. Unlike Nick, I really will be brief. So for fiscal year 2026, 2027, the City Clerk Department has proposed a total budget of $743,000. This represents a 60% increase from the prior fiscal year, due in part, as Nick said, to the creation of the City Clerk Department as a standalone department after previously being a division under the management of the City Manager's Department. as well as a one-time budget enhancement of $180,000 to fund the administration of the November 2026 general election. This amount is based on the cost estimate provided by the Los Angeles County Registrar Recorder, County Clerk's Office. The City Clerk's Department has 2 authorized FTEs, which represents a 0 net change from the previous year. For the fiscal year, next page. For the fiscal year 2025-2026, our accomplishments included, but were not limited to, the hiring of a permanent chief city clerk in January 2026, after a 3-year vacancy, and the establishment of quantifiable key performance indicators, such as establishing completion rates for minutes and agendas. In the next fiscal year, our work plan includes a boards and commissions governance plan to bring practices into alignment with the municipal code and to evaluate potential amendments to clarify member roles. Review and assess the current records management program to bring practices into alignment with industry standards, and to administer this year's local election, which will include processing candidates for 2 open city council seats in districts 4 and 5, and the citywide treasurer seat, as well as the processing of any documentation associated with the placement of a potential bond measure on the ballot if approved by council. So again, for the fiscal year 2026-2027, there's only one budget enhancement, and that's for the one-time funding of the 2026 general election. And the only operational change for this year is the creation of the city clerk department. And with that, I'm here for any questions.
Did I understand you to say it cost $185,000 for us to host an election?
In claiming, yes.
Every 2 years, we pay $185,000?
Approximately, that's the estimate we get from the Registrar Recorder's Office. That obviously changes depending on what actually winds up taking place. And that's based on, we coordinate with the county, so they split it up for all the cities.
Yep.
So.
I'm so sorry. I don't mean to put you on the defensive.
Yeah.
That number just seems astronomical to me.
Yeah. I mean, some of that is also our part for, obviously, we have to perform noticing the notifications.
Right.
People are getting extremely expensive. Obviously, any outreach we do.
Right.
And then, of course, what we get charged from the county.
That is amazing. We got to get our IT guy work on this, right?
No, I don't think there's anything he can do about it, as long as we consolidate with the county.
County just tells you a number. Cool. Switch it to the budget.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you. And I think I'm turning it over to police.
You were much
sorry.
quicker than Nick, by the way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm very concise.
And we're so thrilled
We'll
we
stay-
finally filled the vacancy in the city clerk with such an amazing, amazing person. Thank
And
you, Nikita.
I would like to just mention on that. So my experience with the county is that their estimates are usually well over what the actual cost will come in. I do know 2 years ago, I think there were 3 council members up for election, and there was, I think, Measure SP at the time, and I think that ultimate cost was about $100,000. It was like $90,000 to $100,000. So, we don't expect to spend all of that. Is what I'm saying. It's easy for the county to just overestimate but hopefully it won't go over that. Hopefully it'll be a lot less than that. We'll see.
Shouldn't have told us that, Nick. Yeah. Now we know where your slush fund is.
We're going to claim that 85, Nick. Okay, got it. Okay.
Chair and committee members, how are you doing this afternoon? I am Derek Elmore, the new police chief here in South Pasadena. Nice to meet all of you in person. So for our budget coming up for this year, we have a net budget increase of 12%. Most of that's due to the internal services charges that Nick spoke of earlier. It's about 1.4 million for us or so. It's based off of the number of people we have, and then also the vehicles as well, and maintenance of the facility. There's no net change in our FTEs, and so we're stable going forward with that. Our accomplishments for this past year, we have our detective bureau, which had major accomplishments in several different investigations. One, we had a 4-month-old who unfortunately was murdered, and we were able to successfully prosecute one of the parents for that event. We also had a DUI murder case, which involved high speeds and repeat offenses of that DUI, which one of our detectives took the initiative to to get them to prosecute that as an actual homicide as opposed to just a normal traffic accident with the death. We also had success in disrupting a counterfeit ring and also a burglary ring, which we were able to get 2 of the people who were committing burglaries throughout the LA County area. We were able to get them into custody as well through that process. Other efficiencies that we've had for the department, we took over 25,000 calls for service for the year to date. We continued our fill our new recruits with new positions. Hopefully that's going to help us reduce our overtime and bring the budget down a little bit more as we become closer to being full. We are about 33 officers now. We have 2 more people that are in the process near the end of that, and we are still have open recruiting for 2 more spots that would bring us to capacity and to be full at that point. We hope that with all that reduction, our overtime budget will come down with those enhancements. We're also looking at enhancing our traffic safety by hosting a multi-agency task force, which goes around from the different cities within our region. And then we've had 3 incidents this past year where they've been in our city. Over that time, they've written 500 citations and also educated other people as well. So there's been more contacts than that 500, but we've hoped that that helps reduce our traffic incidents and and helps with educate the public going forward. Operational, we've secured over $1 million for our new grant funding and upgrading our outdated radio systems in 911 and dispatcher center as well. That was largely due to Lieutenant Robles, who's in here, who did a wonderful job of securing that grant and allowing us to get up to date and into the 21st century with our radio and our communications, which I'm very happy about. We strengthened our community engagement through various programs. We have Coffee with a Cop. We've had Citizens Academy, drug take-back programs, fraud presentation, and business district foot beats. We've also, probably the biggest thing that has happened in the city since, I don't know, maybe its founding, we were able to hire a police chief and bring him in and start him this year as well. So that was a big accomplishment that we all had. So our current work plans going forward, we're going to continue with our traffic safety. That's one of our major concerns for our citizens. So we're going to continue to explore different traffic mitigation efforts and safety strategies to address traffic concerns of the citizens. We'll use our engineering department here, our education, and also enforcement, hopefully to make this safer and safer as we go forward. We're actively working with the school district and under the Office of the Traffic Safety grant to help direct us and help us become better at road safety in and around schools as we go forward. Our information technology, we have critical infrastructure that we're modernizing. We talked earlier about the radio communications and dispatch center. We're also looking to come to council with recommendations for our automatic license plate readers going forward, whether we're going to stick with Flock, go another direction, council it all together. We're hoping to bring that to them by the end of the summer so that they'll have an ability to make a decision on that. Our community outreach, we've selected and dedicated mental health officer to partner with a full-time clinician to help with mental health outreach and also with our homeless outreach program as well, and looking for resources for the unhoused population that we have here in our city. We are also in the process right now of hiring a crime analyst. Hopefully by the beginning of next month, we should have that person in place to help identify crime trends, produce analytical reports, and enhance our neighborhood watch program with data-driven prevention strategies, then also allowing us to be more data-driven in our enforcement, where our officers are and where we place them in what times and whatnot. So we're looking to become better at that as well. There we go. Our budget enhancements for this year include the crossing guard contract is something that's already in there. It's 35K more of an increase to cover the crossing guard. It was a budget that was already approved by council, but we just wanted to mention that that was part of that. Our UWASI grant also is one that was a 2024 grant that we had the money for personal protective equipment, tough books, which are laptops that we can use in the patrol cars and then officers can take and use with them as well. So those are just ones that we wanted to mention and talk about. Efficiencies and revenues. We did increase our parking fines and citations and other permits that allow us to now, and also with a little bit more enforcement effort, projected modestly to bring in another revenue of about $282K a year. That hopefully that's on the conservative side. It may be actually more than that after those things are implicated here next year or so. Let's see. Whoops, no, back. Our specialized support roles, again, the crime analyst and the officer for the data health, which we talked about as well, will be part of that. These efforts reflect our commitment to proactively policing, operating efficiently, community partnerships, and our continued improvement to keep South Pasadena safe. Any questions?
Chief, welcome. Thank you for being here. We really appreciate it. And South Pasadena is a richer community because of you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Question. Over the years that I've been on the board, Finance Commission, one of the things that your predecessors have told us is that you are having the police, our police force is having recruitment challenges based upon competition and compensation and other perks for the surrounding communities. Is this addressed in the budget, or have you only been here? Yeah, if you found the coffee machine first, I'm asking you to do an assessment that.
No, so the city manager and city council did approve us to a better comp and class with our officers, so that made us more competitive. With that and with the recruiting efforts that the department has done, we've gone out and been very competitive in getting good candidates to come here to South Pass. So that's why I'm telling you, I'm hoping by the end of the summer we'll be at full staff. And so that's been a good thing, thanks to council and the city manager's office.
Best news I've heard. Thank you.
Yeah.
Else? And World Cup this year, the Olympics in 2 years.
Right.
A lot of new development in the city. Are there maybe a stair-stepping of investments in this department in the future, or are we good where we're at?
As far as,
do we need more investment in this department over the next couple of years?
We'll take a look at the caseload. That's one of the things we really liked about Chief's background was the emphasis on the data management. But right now we're hearing there's a lot of guessing about what's going to happen. We're not really seeing it yet. We've got a good baseline call volume right now with per officer. It's probably the first time we're getting very close to being fully staffed in PD. To your early, and you're going to hear from fire. They are fully staffed for the first time in 10 or 15 years. So the comp and class support that we received from the city council made a huge difference. I think we're going to be presenting a attrition table to the council next week, and we've lost about less than 5% of our workforce over the last year. In fact, it's much less than that, which is pretty great. We were attriting at the 15 or 18% rate per year, which was really having a hard time in the provision of services. We'll keep our eyes out for both police and fire. The fire will be, if we start seeing buildings that are with the height that we're hearing about but haven't necessarily seen, it's also going to affect them in a different way. So we'll definitely watch out for both police and fire based on call volume, how long it's taking us to get there, and do we have the right equipment to service those taller buildings as they start being built.
Great, thank you.
Just take the Rose Bowl and multiply it by 10, and then that's what you're going to hear when you have the soccer and the Olympics, or just yeah.
Thank you, Chief.
So good evening, Chair and Commissioners. My name is Daniel Dunn. I'm a Division Chief with the Fire Department. So our proposed budget for the 26-27 will be 9.2 million, and you'll see a 17% increase. And that has to do, like PD and the rest of the departments, with that increase in the internal service funds. So that covers a 17% increase. Right now, we're at 23 full-time employees. And like Todd said, this is the first time we've been fully staffed in 10 to 15 years. So thank you to everyone for that, and to your commitment, City Council and Todd, for given us competitive compensation packages. I'm one of our longest serving employees. I've been here for 20 years and there's one person above me. So I've seen the ups and downs. What we've had is a 300% turnover in our department since I've been here. So a department of 21, I've seen about 60 plus people come through. So we really appreciate this, and we have some time to breathe, but we have a lot of new people that we're training right now. So when looking at our accomplishments for the 25-26, our workforce development, with all those hirings, we had some promotions. Myself, a division chief, one fire captain, one fire engineer. We've hired 4 firefighter paramedics, and we established a firefighter trainee position, which will be sending those firefighters to paramedic school. We've also, through emergency preparedness, done staff training for our internal staff, as well as drills with interagency coordination. We conducted a CERT class, and we also hosted our first annual emergency preparedness fair. For grant funding this year, we were very fortunate to receive over $200,000 in grant funding, which allowed us to purchase some critical equipment. We're one of the first departments to have what's known as a power loading gurney, but what's different about ours is it actually drives the gurney inside. With a lot of our hills, we still had members having to push the gurney inside. This actually pulls the gurney inside, so we're hoping to reduce injuries with this, and this was fully grant funded. For facility improvements, we replaced inoperative exhaust extraction systems, reduced the contaminants in our facility that our members were exposed to, replaced aging and maintenance intensive apparatus doors with up-to-date technology. And we also gave our bathroom a refresh. So for our next work plan, we're looking at continuing our emergency preparedness. This is something where we're doing quarterly training to get all our new staff on board for EOC operations and just training throughout our community so we can provide that service in case a disaster hits. Also with that is the public education and alert warning system. So we received a $25,000 grant, and we're going to roll out this year to our high hazard areas as an alert system and warning system that can notify those residents, and we're going to work that through. And then one thing that I'll talk on next is our community risk assessment and standards of coverage, as well as our workforce wellness program. So I'll cover those in the next slide. So for budget enhancements, we had one budget enhancement this year, which was $66,000. And as you were asking how we're planning for the future, this allows us to plan and get a report. So what it is a community risk analysis, standards of coverage, and a strategic plan. And what this does is it studies the design and review of the current future risks within the community. Like you said, we have new buildings coming in, mid-rise, as well as the hazards involved in our Monterey Hills. This will evaluate our department's ability to address them and lay out a plan to meet the future needs. These elements are also necessary to start our accreditation that we're going for. This is a $66,000 one-time cost. And for efficiencies and revenues, we're looking at that California Fire Foundation grant, which we have that alert and warning. We received a $25,000 grant for that, as well as using Measure B for wellness. We received $198,000. With that, we were able to purchase those 2 power loading gurney and power lifting systems, as well as starting a partnership with the community college for wellness program. And it's designed to promote healthy lifestyle, early detection of illness, and prevent injuries. And that's the end of the report. I'll take any questions. Nothing?
Great news.
Thank you.
Yeah, great news. Thank you.
Appreciate it. Congrats on your promotion. Nick, go ahead. Zen, go ahead, Zen.
Quick technical, like
Please,
minor,
please don't relax, Nick. Just get up there.
just a number question again. So the police department, I'm looking at kind of the changes in the numbers, right? So under police, the CalPERS UAL is expected to go down by like 400,000 from 2 million to 1.6. But then for fire, and part of why their budget is up so much this year, looks like they're expecting a $600,000 increase in CalPERS UAL. Like, what's the big shift in the UAL between the two departments?
Yes, good evening. So the UAL this year, the allocation, it significantly increased on, so they break it out, the UAL for sworn, and they show what it's going to be for fire and for police. And so then for the police, it increases significantly, and for fire, it's reduced. Now, as to why, I would have to, get information from CalPERS to see why that's
Like
the case. Yeah.
diversions.
Why, yes.
Okay, but so basically CalPERS this year for the first time decided to kind of differentiate.
Exactly, yes.
Okay,
Okay.
interesting.
All right.
I don't know if it was I don't know if it was the first time they've done it. They have, but they did consolidate a couple of our fire plans this year, so that probably has something to do with it. They provide their actuarial a little bit differently this year.
Yeah, no, I mean,
That-
fire is getting a huge bump in UAL this
Yeah.
year. I mean, is that something we
Well, there's also
push back on? But like, is this no?
No, it's because they basically calculate it for the entire plan, so all firefighters in all of California, and they do. So there'll be certain variables that change. Life expectancy might have increased for firefighters more than it increased for police officers, and just from an actuarial standpoint,
But do
that
all
happens.
fire departments get hit with like a 60% increase in UAL?
So they'll be probably not the same as ours, but they all probably had an increase because the underlying actuarial assumptions take all of the fire departments. There'll be certain differences in our particular, what our I don't know exactly what our if we're like 3% at 50, I don't know what our benefits are. So there'll be some change and differences there between other departments, but the underlying are basically California-wide assumptions. So that probably is it. We could certainly, I mean, those we can certainly provide the actuarials if anyone's interested. Those are public documents, and but we definitely we're sort of at the mercy of CalPERS when it comes to the UAL, unfortunately.
It was just a very surprising.
Yeah.
My question, Nick, was sorry.
My bad.
The internal service funds, I know they only apply to probably particular departments. You might just in the beginning describe maybe which departments it applies to. So then when you're going through each.
Yes. So actually the self-insurance and the facilities apply to all departments that have personnel costs. So because we're assuming if you have a person, they're in an office, so they need electricity, light, you're in a facility. So it's basically think of it as rent if you were a private company. And again, same thing, any department that has personnel, you also have like workers' comp and liability exposure. So again, it's just think of it as the insurance cost for that. So basically all of the divisions will have, you'll see if there's salaries, there's an internal service charge. For the vehicle charge, that one is only if you have vehicles. So those are really police, fire, public works, I think community services and like HR. A lot of other most departments don't have a vehicle charge. With that, we'll move on to public work.
May I ask one more question or make a suggestion to both the chiefs? Have you considered creating an incident response team in anticipation of what Nevin brought up? Because if you do, there are a number of citizens who have completed their statewide incident response training. I'm one of them. And it certainly feels like you could develop that team and ramp it up slowly versus waiting until the stuff hits the fan.
Are you speaking in regards to CERT?
Yes.
Okay, so yeah, with CERT, what we do is we keep a list of all our members, and one of my plans as we're working through this emergency preparedness is identifying those members and also recruiting people. Like I have the South Pasadena Amateur Radio Club; they're going to be utilized in case we were to lose our whole communication system. So it is going to take a partnership because when you look at our fire department, we have 6 members on duty per day, and we service a city of 25,000. There's not much we can do, so we're going to have to heavily rely on the community. So we are starting to work with those partnerships, and we will be including those people in the training that we do, and we also have yearly training as a refresher for them as well.
I think it'd be a great way to bring the community into your work.
Absolutely.
Yep.
I think Commissioner Giuliani wants a badge, but that's okay.
A gun. And hair. Okay.
Good evening, Chair, Commission. My name is Giuliani. I have a pleasure of serving you as a Public Works Director. So Public Works for this year, the budget proposed budget is $2.84 million, is a decrease over 22%. I told Nick that the reasons for deduction is me, but he told me that that's not the reason. Seriously, the reason is because we were able to allocate the cost on the actual basis. So I know that before it was burdened on the general fund, but what we did was we looked at the true operation and see where the true allocation needs to be. The cost was diverted into other fund that was actually should be costing, such as other funds such as Prop C, Measure M, Measure R, and other costs. So that was the reason for. Although I'd like to take the credit for it, but it's not. It's because of the reallocation of those.
Just call it expert management. Keep
Okay.
going.
So we do have 43 FTEs. Again, it varies. It composed of several divisions: admin and engineering, environmental services, park maintenance, facility maintenance, and water division. So for the 25-26 accomplishment, the department has again assessed the department's labor allocation budget and reflect more accurately to the other funding to reduce the budget for next year. We also have restructured the CIP division and the maintenance team for the better efficiency of the operation. We expanded the customer service by providing the dedicated staff at the city hall, providing a better customer service. And also, we awarded the construction of the 25-26 street improvement projects. That's over 1.5 miles of the street improvements that we're doing right now, getting a lot of complaints, but also getting a lot of praises because of the work. We also have started the design, actually awarded the design for the Huntington Fremont project, and we have done a couple of the public outreach, as you know, and right now we're trying to get into the actual design of that from the planning phase. We also have expanded our ability to respond to potholes and a lot of the dire need on the street by having the on-call contractor on board. So we're addressing that as we speak. And then other accomplishment will be completing the Berkshire and the Grevillea and Berkshire Pocket Park, coordinating with the community services department to get that done. As far as the work plan for next year, again, we will continue to focus on the staff as far as educating and training them. As far as the budget, I know Nick was talking about that spring book. Our Department of Public Works will be trained with not only the spring book but also the budget processes, so that they know what they're spending, and they'll be much more aware of the budget process and the financial aspect of the operation. We will be completing the Fremont and Huntington corridor project, knock on wood. And then as far as the North-South Fair Oaks ITS deployment project, we hope to be done with the construction for that project. We will continue with the traffic calming and transportation safety improvements on citywide. That's going to be continuous, not just next year, but continuous throughout. We will initiate the urban forest management plan. Again, that's a big thing for our city. We're also going to be focusing on enhancing the interdepartmental collaboration. So currently, I am meeting with all the department heads on a monthly basis to discuss the support that Public Works could do for the departments. We're going to try to expand that to the managers level and supervisors level so they could collaborate together so that we could create efficiency in operations. Again, we also going to be implementing the OpenGov permitting software that will improve our permitting process and be more transparent with the residents of the permit process. As for the budget enhancement this year, the staff is requesting a operational equipment or 2 forklifts. Currently, we do not have anything that we have to handle the heavy loads and heavy deliveries. So this will allow us to efficiently or to make it handle the heavy equipments that are getting delivered, the materials and fuel equipments. As far as, and that cost will be $100,000 from various funds. Efficiencies, again, we will be implementing OpenGov as we talked about at the work plan, and also we'll improve the financial awareness of our budget. Again, with my staffing, from admin to engineers to all the even the operational staff will be aware of the budget process and also the financials. We'll strengthen again the cross-functional collaboration with other departments as we discussed at the work plan. Finally, operation changes. Again, we do have a dedicated CIP division that are dedicated to our CIP projects, and we have two staff that are working amazingly, and they'll focus on delivering the projects. We're also going to be implementing asset management program, working with IT, so that we could track better on our infrastructure conditions and better prioritize what needs to be replaced in the future. Better bang for the buck that I would say that needed. Again, we are also working with community services about reorganizing the parks and facility department to make it more, give it better operational efficiency in the parks and facilities. So with that, I'm able to answer any questions.
Do you have any open head count right now?
I'm sorry?
Do you have any open head count right now?
We do have 2 engineers that are starting, and then we have 2 more people from operations that are being filled.
Thank you. That is quite an improvement over last year. Appreciate it. Yeah. Second question. One of the things that, again, this goes back to history. Your predecessor would report to us each year just like this, and there were funds that were use it or lose it funds. We'd gotten grants from the state, the county, or federal grants, and we were in a use it or lose it situation. Has that situation improved, or is that a Nick question?
Well, there are funds that are expiring soon, and that's the reason why we're trying to expedite some of the projects, such as Huntington and Fremont,
right?
And also the Fair Oaks project that has some deadline that we're trying to meet. So we're trying to see if we can spend that grant fund.
Okay, so you're feeling the urgency to make sure that we're not giving money back.
Correct.
Fantastic. We like that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Just a couple questions on my end. Actually, to that point, I thought at some point there was a discussion about a position or role that was managing
Yes.
specifically grants. Is that correct? Like the timing of grants to make sure that we don't have any ones that expire, unbeknownst or with hard deadlines. Is that position created?
We made that recommendation a couple of years ago. Yeah.
So right now with Public Works staff, we are actually working with staff from finance to make sure that we are checking that. And I think it needs to be collaboration between Public Works and finance, because I mean, Public Works knows exactly where the status of the project is. So it is important that we work each other together to make sure that we do the project and then make sure that we get reimbursed for that project.
Yeah, so I would say in a sort of normally functioning sort of organization, you don't necessarily need a position that's dedicated to that. I think what Julian was saying is having sort of a senior analyst in the Public Works Department work with our accounting manager. Then we're regularly reviewing those. We also have a CIP analyst that is staying on top of grants in the finance side of it. And quite frankly, it's about teaching the project managers on the Public Works side that that's part of their job is grant reimbursement as well. So all of that together sort of, now that I think we're operating with more collaboration between the 2 departments, we don't necessarily need that position because it's functioning the way it should.
We were so concerned about it, Nick, that we were going to suggest to City Council that you add a position.
Well, just because of the dollar amounts involved, right,
Yeah,
for some of this.
Huge.
So the other clarification, you mentioned that the budget change, right, this 22%, not just for you, but for shifting away. Where did those land? So where did the shifting happen to?
So some of the funds, we were working on the street projects, but a lot of the street projects were not getting funded from the streets, such as, I mean, we have Prop C fund, Measure M, Measure R fund that we could use on the street labor costs, but it wasn't actually charged in that account. It was mainly on the general fund. So let's say our staff, let's say the street staff is working, let's say 50% on streets and let's say another 50% on facilities, then you need to equally charge both streets and the facility. But for past budget, the labor allocation was actually charged more onto the general fund without allocating onto the street. So by actually looking at the operation, what each staff is doing and putting the correct funding, we were able to shift those funds.
Please make that point when you present to city council. Your mayor will be very happy.
So it essentially shifted to other special funds, is that correct? And so what is the overall net impact? Is it true budgetary savings, or is it really just left hand, right hand kind of thing?
No, you're asking, is it savings and factors simply proper accounting?
Yes. So that's a valid point, and public works departments tend to be very messy because they work with so many funding sources. So, Measure R is a good example where they allow up to 20% cost for project management costs. Some cities don't take it, so we weren't taking advantage of that. We were charging all project management costs to general fund, and that means they weren't being charged in Measure R. So to your point, we can certainly, it might be worth kind of having a separate slide that shows this is what's charged to the general fund. So what we're showing really is general fund specific, but overall, the better picture might be, okay, so here's general fund, but general fund plus staff costs to all of the other divisions, which we can, I think we can make that adjustment and show as an informational item to when it goes to city council.
I think that would be helpful, because otherwise you look at this and go, oh, it's a 22.8% decline, but it really isn't overall. It's sitting somewhere.
Well, so if I'm,
That'll show you've been listening too.
so I'm looking at so it's 400 of that decline, right? Basically, there's a million decline. Wait, why does this not add up?
What page are you on?
Facilities maintenance, page 126 of the slide deck. So the 26-27 number lines up, but the 25-26 looks like it's off by like 500,000. But if I'm just looking at this, it goes from 1.57 million to 523 thousand. So about $1 million shift. And the biggest piece is there's 417,000 coming out of contract services, 275,000 for utilities, and then 200,000 for building maintenance.
Yes. So to that point, all of those shifted to the internal service fund, because now instead of paying it out of the general fund in that one division, it's going to an internal service fund and charged out. So I think, all of those are, again, points that point toward combining, particularly for public works, combining and showing the different funding sources. So it's a better sort of overall picture of the department, even though they have probably 8 or 9 different funding sources that fund the public works department.
Maybe just double check why the numbers don't line up. So page 126, the 25-26 and then the slide 34. I think we're off by like 500K somewhere.
I think he can show you a reconciliation of the general fund to the special revenue funds. As we get the budget put together, it'll tie out that way. But you're correct in terms of how the funds are being charged. It's not really appropriate for the general fund to be subsidizing special revenue funds. That they're there for a reason. I also wanted to just kind of comment on the grant issue. I can see why you would say that, and one of the things that we've really done over the last year was we've created a CIP division who does their job is to deliver projects, understand how they're resourced, what the timelines are on them. That has been a significant change. There was so much transition in public works, and so many vacant positions. When I started, no one could track anything. So it would really not have mattered if there was a grant person here or not. there wasn't enough knowledge of what was happening on the projects to make that person successful. So that's been probably the biggest issue. And then those areas where we do know that we've got grant programs, we're meeting monthly, these accountability meetings to make sure that these programs are getting traction. I've taken a strong lead with several of the big projects just to make sure that Julian and his team are supported. We're getting decisions out of the city council, and so we can contract and get the money spent. But it's really one of those things where it's an all hands on deck from finance, CMO, and public works in order to make sure that we're on top of that. So I don't think it's any one department's job to wear that responsibility unto itself. We needed to set up systems to make sure that these things were visible. Thank you.
Yeah, that's great. I mean, at the end of the day, when we recommended a rule, it was more about accountability because, like you said, when there's a lot of change happening, things fall through the crack, especially with turnover.
Yep.
So whether it's a specific rule or a very well-defined process is what I'm hearing, right, in terms of shared accountability. But I think that as long as it is, it is well-defined, like it's very clear, hey, it is finance working with CIP and both parties are involved to make sure that we get our grants, met and timely, because I think there was some concern when we heard about like grants, that just kind of being up to the final months and suddenly you've only got a few months left to kind of meet that.
Right. And Nick and I both thoroughly enjoy writing Julian and his team to make sure they spend the money. So it's part of what brings us joy day to day. So, good.
Thank you again. Really appreciate it.
Thank you.
It feels like it's under control.
It is.
Great, thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, good evening.
Can you explain the t-shirts?
Oh,
Thank you. I knew I was going to like you. Okay.
it's for the budget season. Our budget is almost approved, but it passed the first test. So we'll see if it passes the second one. So good evening. My name is Erica Ramirez. I'm the Community Development Director for the city, and I'll be presenting the next few slides for you. The Community Development Department's fiscal year 26-27 proposed budget comes in at $3.7 million, which is approximately 12% less than the current fiscal year. This is the result of a few large development projects that submitted their construction plans for review in December, as mentioned before, which was part of the mid-year budget adjustment. In addition, this year we are not proposing any enhancements, and we also have some cost savings as it relates to contract services in the coming year. Fiscal year 26-27, we have 12 full-time and 1 part-time employee in the department, and this includes 2 new staff positions in the building division that I'll talk about briefly. Oh, sorry. So some key accomplishments during this fiscal year include council approval of a pilot rental assistance program that's anticipated to be advertised by the summer. This will be funded by the county's Permanent Local Housing Allocation Funds, or PLHA. The department has made streamlining design and development review a priority and has made various changes for improvement, but one in particular was eliminating the design review board and reallocating its authority to the Planning Commission. This fiscal year, after a lot of work and studies, there were amendments to the housing element, the zoning code, zoning map, and the downtown specific plan to increase height limits, densities, and development standards for mixed use and multifamily projects or areas. This work's ongoing, but will continue into the next fiscal year, but the significant work was completed during the current fiscal year. Also, a long-awaited public art policy handbook was created and adopted by council in November of 2025. Also, this fiscal year, we brought on board a lead code enforcement officer, and this has allowed us to bring our code division up from 1 to 2, and also extend code enforcement services Monday through Friday every week. We've also been able to improve our response to customer complaints, constituent complaints. So turning our attention to this upcoming year, some of our notable work plan items include developing an SB 79 implementation plan. As you may be aware, SB 79 is a state legislation that requires cities to increase densities and heights within certain distances of transit. And so we will be bringing some options to Planning Commission on May 12th and then to Council June 3rd. And so after we know what path forward we're going to take in terms of planning, we'll be able to start creating an implementation plan for that. Some other items that are related in terms of development are our objective design standards. These are for future multifamily and mixed-use developments. And professional services were retained in December, and we're expecting those to be completed by this December. In addition, we have our ADU pre-approved program, which will include 3 ready-to-use ADU plans and a guidebook, and that's on track to be completed by October. So that consultant will be presenting to Planning Commission on May 12th as well. As Julian mentioned, in Public Works, we also have our online permitting system, and it'll be launched at the beginning of the next fiscal year, but it'll take a few months for us to build out the rest of the work permit plans. And so what this will do is it'll allow applicants direct access to apply and monitor their permits, and it'll be across the city departments. So it'll be for planning, building, but also fire and public works. It'll also allow us to improve our communication across departments and our coordination for development review. Sorry. And then also just to mention, we lastly have noted that we are expecting to enter into a development agreement with Related, and that's to construct the senior housing development that's going to be on El Centro and Mound. In regards to the Community Development Department does not have any enhancements for this upcoming year as mentioned, but what is changing is that we anticipate a savings in contract services by transitioning 2 key positions in the building division away from contract services and to bring them in-house. That'll be a senior building inspector and also a permit tech. We do estimate that this will equal approximately $85,000 a year in savings from contract services. In addition, transitioning to OpenGov, which is the new permitting system, we're anticipating that will be a cost savings of about $95,000 over a 5-year term. So that's related again to the operation change, and this is what the result of the new 2 new positions to the department. Oh, and that's my presentation. If you have any questions, I'm glad to take those. Thank you.
Good evening, Chair and Commissioners. My name is Melissa Snyder. I'm our Community Services Director, and I will try to keep this very brief because it's been the longest 35 minutes since Nick said that was going to take this. So for our proposed budget, it is approximately $2.5 million, which also reflects a 3.3% increase, which like many of the directors have said before me, this accounts for the reallocation of internal services charges for self-insurance and facility and maintenance. The department currently has 10 authorized full-time positions, including 4 transit positions that are funded through Prop A. For fiscal year 2026-27, staffing reflects 1 additional full-time in our Recreation and Youth Services division, which is from a consolidation of 2 part-time positions. Overall, the department operations continue to support administration, recreation and youth services, senior services, and transit. For FY 25-26, the Community Services Department focused on advancing key projects, strengthening internal structure, and continuing to deliver programs and services and events to the community. One major accomplishment was advancing the Arroyo Seco Golf Course Master Plan with the City Manager's Office assistance through a public-private partnership procurement process. This was one important step in evaluating the long-term future of the facility and identifying opportunities for continued improvement. The department also supported Public Works with the completion of the construction of 2 pocket parks. This expanded neighborhood park access and created additional recreation spaces for our community. Another key accomplishment was establishing the Community Services Work Plan and meeting framework for the Community Services Commission. This helped create a more structured approach to commission meetings, annual priorities, and policy discussion. Councilmember Braun knows what we're talking about. And lastly, the department continued to support the delivery of special events, recreation programs, senior services, and transit. This year included a strong participation across all divisions, with the senior center providing over 8,000 meals, recreation and youth services, had over 9,000 people register for classes. Our transit completed over 5,000 trips. We administered 23 community special events, and then we reimagined our first movie in the park for this year to be a FIFA World Cup viewing party, which will be on June 12th. Overall, these accomplishments reflected the department's broad goal in supporting quality of life, community engagement, and access to services for residents across all stages of life. Looking ahead at 2026-27, we're looking at evaluating all of our programs and services currently. We will be completing our Parks Comprehensive Plan. We will work with the City Manager's Office to onboard the new golf course operator. And then finally, we'll do a review of department policies, agreements, special event permitting, and review our city leased facilities to improve consistency, accountability, and cost recovery with those programs. And last, we have no budget enhancements for this year. The department is focused on improving operational efficiency, strengthening internal processes. This includes refining senior services staffing levels to better manage personnel costs, implementing a tap-to-pay mobile payment options for participants in our programs, and reviewing fee waivers and partnerships to identify opportunities for improved cost recovery. Operationally, the department is also reviewing 2 reorganization efforts. The first would be to restructure senior services and transit to provide additional staff support amongst the 2 divisions. And then, as we mentioned before, we're looking to establish a Parks and Facility Division within the Community Services Department, which would be comprised of existing Public Works staff. Both reorganizations are intended to provide additional support, improve efficiency, and better align staffing responsibilities with services provided by the department. And that includes my presentation. And I did remember Chair's question at the beginning that he said he was going to ask all the department heads, so I will answer it. So we made some changes in senior services. We looked for opportunities where we could have partnerships or sponsorship for a lot of the programs that we were offering. And we made most of the cuts to one of our special events by reevaluating where we were actually spending compared to what we were budgeting for those events. So I'm happy to take any other questions.
Which one?
4th of July predominantly. We had increased the budget significantly to accommodate for a drone show, and as we switched this year to a fireworks show, we're able to reduce the budget there.
With that, we are at the end of this journey. I do want to thank the commission for giving us really helpful feedback, all the departments, so that will help us prepare us for our budget study session with council next week. So we'll make some edits and enhancements to our what we have as our presentation. We'll definitely look at a way to better show the general fund reductions that are actually the result of allocating salaries to responsible funds rather than, simply a cut. So I think we heard that loud and clearly. We'll try to figure out a better way to display that and better color coding for savings versus enhancements. So I think that was really good feedback. It was a helpful dry run for everyone, or first run, and then you kind of helped. Iron sharpens iron, right? We appreciate all the questions. You'll help us for next week, just have a better presentation to the wider city council audience. So that's staff's presentation for the night, and enjoy the budget. We'll from a budget standpoint, the next commission meeting is on June 10th. Will be a joint commission meeting with city council and the finance commission.
Great job, everyone. Everyone gets a t-shirt. Tatiana, do we have any public comments on this item?
No, we do not.
Great. I guess that'll conclude that portion. Any questions? Concerns? Okay. I think we asked them all during the time. City council liaison communications. You have any communications?
No,
Ron?
but this was amazing. So thank you.
Communications from the finance department. Get us out of here. Okay. Any communications from the commissioners?
If our biggest suggestion is color coding, you got it. You nailed it. Thanks, folks. Really appreciate it. Great job.
Great job.
I would just say, I actually really enjoyed the accomplishments of the prior year and then what you're going to work on for the next year. I think that's a really great way to display all the hard work that you all do every single year that we don't know about and we don't thank you enough for. So I just wanted to say thank you for all you did in 25, 26, and we're looking forward to a great 26, 27.
You're here.
Yeah, I found out so much about all your accomplishments that I didn't know about. So really appreciate it.
All right.
Yeah, thank you for the very informative and excellent presentation. Much appreciated.
Zen, anything from you? Yeah, there you go. There you go.
We can laugh rather than cry,
Yeah.
which is what we're used to doing.
That's right. All right. With that, I'll adjourn the Finance Commission meeting at 8:27. Thank you, everyone.